probably given them credit.
She sells seashells by the seashore. She sells seashells by the seashore. She sells... What? I just need to finish this LinkedIn post. I know, it's tight, I get it. Have you seen the ROI I'm getting on this organic social? Crazy! I got time, right? I mean, we're not live yet. Just 1 second. What? We're good. I know. I'll be ready. Okay, there's a lot of people, but you've got this, Daryl. You can do this. Just be confident. Look at the camera. Just engage them, be personable, smile. Don't forget to smile. I know, I'm almost there. You got this.
like Daryl didn't make it back from his coffee run in time. So Daniel and I are going to wing it on our own here without the amazing Daryl to guide us. Let's see what kind of trouble Daniel and I can get up to on our own. Daniel, welcome to T3. This is a new format that we're trying. It's 15 minutes of all jam-packed action with an executive like yourself and 5 minutes of live questions. This format is really exciting because it's T3, a tech, a trend, and a tactic that you love that you're willing to share with your peers. I'm super excited to have you here. Welcome. You're VP of Community at Apollo. I hope I got that correct. Tell everybody a little bit, just like introduce yourself, let them know who you are so they have a framework for where your point of view is going to come from for the things we're going to talk about.
Sure. Well, I'm glad we have such a tight time frame because if there's anything I'm known for, it's my brevity, as this first statement clearly indicates. So my focus in social media is on community building in B2B SaaS in particular. So a lot of work on LinkedIn, though the amazing team that I've worked with has had incredible success on Instagram and TikTok and beyond. In the past, I was at Chili Piper, where I took their organic impressions from around 5,000 per month to around 1 million monthly. And now I'm at Apollo, where I oversee customer marketing, events, PR, community, which is our relationship in these Slack communities, and social media and evangelism. And here I've been here about 4.5 months in organic impressions. When I joined, we were getting around 40,000-50,000 a month on LinkedIn. And that number is closer to 300,000 a month now. And we're just getting started.
Wow. So that means that everybody should be grabbing their pen and paper to take down everything you have to share here because they're going to want to replicate your results out of the gate. I know I do. So I appreciate your point of view here, and I'm excited to jump into the things that you're sharing with us because there's going to be gold in here. So let's start with our first part of T3, which is focused on a trend. So it's a trend you are watching and keeping your eye on. And I thought this was great. We kind of got into this a little bit in the green room before the show. But what does this mean to you? Tell us about this trend you're keeping your eye on.
Yeah, so I'm keeping my eye on this trend in particular because I'm so jealous of everybody who's just doing an amazing job with it, right? So this image here is from Marketing Millennials, and the mastermind behind that is Daniel Murray, who's just this incredible marketer, and he's built this incredible audience. And I was chatting with him once and some other meme experts like Mark Jung and things like that. What they told me is that the best memes lie at the intersection of something that's relatable and something that's funny and something that's topical. And I just thought like, oh, wow, that's great. But it lends to this interesting question, which we were discussing earlier, because it's like a lot of what's topical is things that are bad, right? Like, oh, I'm overworked. I don't like my manager. The tools don't work or whatever. And as a social media marketer for a brand that solves these pain points, you need to find a balance, in my opinion, between like creating relatable content, but also just trying to uplift and be positive. It's a balance I'm still working on myself. But if you look at some of this meme powered growth, like Marketing Millennials is adding tens of thousands of followers a month. And leading brands like Gong are adding about 5,000, and Marketing Millennials is just a couple people. So it's pretty wild.
Yeah, it's incredible. And it is funny that, nobody wants to go negative, right? Mm-hmm. But it's funny that we picked out this meme, which, I mean, if you guys can, I don't know, we talked about it, like there's like 4,700 likes and engagements on this. It was shared 260 times. Obviously, it resonated, it was relatable to the audience. And this one we just picked randomly to have in here to share with you guys. But the funny thing is the marketer in me saw this and said, oh my gosh, I could totally use this meme to promote Agorapulse and how Agorapulse can take some of these things off your plate to make your life better. So it is interesting that as marketers, we so often are looking for the pain points in our audiences, but you don't want to go negative. So it is a very interesting thing. I think it's funny that you said it was a Daniel that's created.
Another Daniel. The Daniel who's the best.
Daniel. What are we doing here? It's Daniel Day. It's Daniel Day.
Daniel. I'm sorry. Go on.
Yeah. So Marketing Millennials, we have it on here. You guys should go check it out. I scrolled through it for like 15 seconds and I was laughing. And I thought it was great. So I'm excited to go and check this out myself. This is new to me. This is something that our Daniel is sharing what the other Daniel is doing. And I'm sure there's a lot of content here that you guys would find interesting. If nothing else, it's good for a laugh. I thought,
Yeah, one other
again,
thing I
we
would
just
add
picked this
tactically.
randomly.
Oh, go
Yeah.
ahead.
And we just picked this randomly, and not only is it interesting and funny as a marketer, I can also see how I could leverage this for Agorapulse.
Yeah.
So,
one thing I would add tactically, if brands are thinking about using this, where it's like you're building a meme, right? And this comes from somebody who has yet to crack the meme code, but I'm trying to talk about it so I can learn more. So it's like the first thing is relatable, right? And then after it's not relatable, people will disengage. So it's like, how wide is that initial funnel? So when you're thinking about creating meme content for your brand, if it does get too brand specific, you're actually going to dilute that relatability aspect. So what I've found that the marketing millennials are doing really well is they're talking about broader things that are applicable across all companies, which is just another way of marketing. Like not all marketing on social has to be about your company and things like that.
Right.
Like, for example, what you're doing right now in this 15.5. It's about just uplifting people and relating and being entertaining and stuff like that.
Yeah, it is. And I think that, again, I am yet to crack the language of memes. I find it very interesting. Like I have teenage kids, and they speak in memes. When they talk to each other with a meme, they know exactly what influencers the other person is following. Like it's not only does the meme funny and, like you're saying, relatable and engageable, but the meme I choose tells you who I follow and what I'm interested in, like automatically. Like it almost is a language that translates even across languages because it is so visually driven. So it is its own language. I'm sure it's the subject of someone's thesis for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to the next thing that we're going to talk about, which is tech. This is super interesting to me. And micro automations. What do you mean when you say that? And tell us about these two. Why'd you pick them?
Yeah. So digital agility is something when I'm onboarding new folks to the teams I serve, it's one of the first things I think about. Like imagine, and I'm not an overly militaristic person, but I will give a metaphor for the army right now.
Okay.
You want to create the best soldier ever or whatever. So a fundamental aspect of what you do is conditioning. Make sure people can run fast. Make sure they can run consistently. Like, why isn't there any training for digital agility amongst tech workers? So Text Expander and Better Snap tools, they're not like revolutionary tools, which will be like, you'll get 10x ROI. What they do is save you a little bit of time. So I'm going to share my screen really quickly, if that's okay.
Yeah, please.
Right, share my screen, go into the window here. So Better Snap Tools is a tool that lets you really quickly navigate your tabs. So I can pop this tab out into its own window. I can move it to the left. I can move it to the right. I can maximize this thing. I can go to the first tab to see one of my favorite LinkedIn creators and marketers. I can go to the third tab. I can close a tab. I can reopen that closed tab, and then it doesn't work because of LinkedIn. This is really funny. So every time I'm cookied on LinkedIn, every time I go to LinkedIn, this person, Ryan's LinkedIn profile shows up. So it's like, why have I visited his LinkedIn profile 100 times? I probably should just delete my cookies. I sent him a note recently that's like, Ryan, I'm sorry, I visit your LinkedIn profile 10 times a day. I don't want to delete my cookies. But anyway, the idea of these little micro automations is a couple things. Like one, when you're working, so much of work is about being in the zone, right? It's about being prepared and there in the moment. And it's really easy to lose concentration as we navigate from one tab to another for a bunch of reasons. One of which being that marketers spend millions of dollars to try to distract us willfully, right? So if you can navigate your tabs seamlessly and quickly across multiple monitors, you might save 5 seconds 50 times a day. But then think about that. Like that adds up. It's so cool. Text Expander is like the snippets that you see in emails and stuff like that, but they're queued to a hotkey. I use them a lot, although not on this. What?
I know what you're talking about now that you say it that way. Yes.
Yeah, I use them a lot, but not on this laptop because of the security requirements that I have for it. But it's really cool. The idea is that like you want to automate parts of your interaction. So especially as a community manager, if you find yourself doing the same thing many times, like replying to the same email or sending the same LinkedIn DM or inviting people to the same event, you can create a snippet around that. And then it's like, hey, Teresa, great chatting last week at the webinar. Insert like webinar follow-up or like hashtag webinar follow-up. And then it'll auto-populate like, as a follow-up, I'd love to do this. Here's this event, all this stuff. It just saves you so much time. So it's like, who are your competitors? How do you gain 1% on them every hour, every 15 minutes, every day you gain 10% on them by being a little more efficient? How do you enable adoption of that across the whole team? Now your entire team is 10% more efficient. Lots of cool stuff there.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think that if you're a creative person at all, if you're in marketing, if you're a creative person at all, being pulled out of the groove costs you way more than 50 seconds, 10 seconds, a minute. Like sometimes it can take a half an hour, 20 minutes, to get back on the thought where you were. So little things like this that automate life and keep you in the zone are priceless. This is a great share. I hope everybody's got their pen and paper out. We have literally got 4 minutes left, so I want to make sure that we get in your tactic that you're using. This one is so powerful. Daniel, tell us what you mean by this.
Yeah. So people find it way easier to build an emotional connection with a human than a brand, in my opinion. So for me, marketing is a lot about customer marketing and showcasing the voice of the customer and the actual voice of the employee as well, who's building something. I'll give an example. Recently, Cmejla, who runs our social media at Chili Piper, and I decided that we wanted to share a real person every day. So you can see my screen. If you go and you tell your stories through humans, it makes like a huge difference. So here you can see our LinkedIn post over the last few days. And this is a great example. We launched our conversational intelligence tool, and we're going to do a broader launch this week. This is like a Chorus competitor, a lot of call recording, but primarily it just helps our customers because we're providing it for free for all paid users. Instead of sharing some snippet of a graph of how it works, we shared the person behind it and they told their story. And that is so much more powerful if you highlight the humans. So you can see there's 20,000 impressions right there. Earlier the day we announced our CRO. We didn't put a big press release out there. We put a picture of her, like building real brand equity with people. And you can see there in the course of 3 hours, we drove 30,000 plus organic impressions. And that was like what we'd get almost in some whole months last year. And the difference behind it is you showcase the humans.
Well, I don't know if you've ever watched any like research. I mean, I'm sure you've read your share of marketing research, but humans love faces. It's like deep programmed into our lizard brain, the oldest part of our brain, to react to faces. Like human babies, like newborns, can react to a face if it's upside down or sideways or the eyes are mixed up. Like faces are definitely programmed into us to respond to them. So I think the idea of using faces and people is genius. And especially in business to business, we so much want to focus on the features in our products. And we forget that people would much rather connect with a person than the best feature on earth.
Yeah. I hear this a lot where it's like, hey, company pages don't perform well as personal pages. And maybe that's true, but maybe also your company page is just a boring, sterilized version of yourself with no soul. And if you wrote it more like a personal page, it would perform better. The last thing on showing humans is I believe it comes with a responsibility for social media managers, execs, and brand folks as well. When someone wants to apply to an org, they're going to think, is there someone who looks like me, who's successful in this org that I can relate to? There's a real hazard of showcasing people and showcasing a lack of diversity at the same time, because not only do you signal to the market that this is okay, but you'll actually discourage people who don't meet the like gender and race of the people you're showcasing to apply. So it's a problem that compounds itself. It's difficult to try and solve that problem because let's say you're not a diverse place. And you're like, I want to showcase more diversity to hire more people of color or more women or whatever. It's weird because you don't want to present a false image of your company. What I would suggest is like try to create employee resource groups within your company and then reach out to the folks and say like, how can I partner with you to make this a better place for you to work or things like that? So I'd say showcase faces, but make sure you're showcasing a diversity of different people in terms of the roles, engineering, product, gender, race, location, all kinds of stuff, gender identity, etc.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I definitely don't think we don't get all of our teams in front of the camera. Like we think of marketing people and people who are great in front of camera, but even that shy person on the product team or who's used to being behind the scenes, bringing them front and center it's very relatable. Back to the first slide, relatable is everything. Somebody who isn't like a powerhouse on camera is relatable in their own way. Oops, that is our timer that we are done. So to Rui, who's watching, yes, the timer made a sound. Sorry about that. So, okay, so let's recap what we have covered so far from Daniel, this secret nuggets that he shared with us. The trend, which we talked about, which was meme content that's super relatable and sometimes pain related as a trend, and how it's doing for marketing millennial. That's right, Daniel, right? Marketing millennial on LinkedIn.
Marketing millennials.
Marketing millennials. Definitely go and check that out. They had some really funny stuff on there, and I'm interested to see their other content too. So we talked about using relatable meme content to basically the same as this tactic, humanize your organization, give it a little bit of relatability and levity. We talked about the tech, which was all about micro streamlining your day, right? And then we talked about the tactic, which was adding more human faces, pulling those faces to the front that aren't normally on camera, and making sure that you're moving towards, Dan, if I heard you correctly, you were basically like, this is the humanizing your brand is also about putting your best foot forward in your future state. So if you aren't as diverse now as you want to be, this is a way to start modeling the future state that you want.
Yeah, absolutely. 1 second. I have to let my dogs in.
Okay, to become what you want to be. I think that's what we're talking about. We're talking about that, that adding human faces that represent the best version of your company and the state you're moving towards.
And I see some questions in the comments. Do we want to tag into those? So
that is the last 5 minutes of our time together will be spent asking questions. I thought this one, I'm going to add this. I think if I don't do this right, then you just show me. So I thought this was a really great one. How do you train the team to make sure the meme images they choose? This is such a big one, Daniel. What do you think about this? Because not every meme is work friendly.
Yeah. So for me, what I like to do, and this comes from a background helping manage PR and comms for Democratic and progressive, campaigns, Bernie Sanders and Hillary, and did a little bit of stuff for Joe Biden. But it's like what I like to do when I think about can something go wrong is I play it out in my mind. Okay, this meme, who could it potentially offend or what could be wrong with it? Just play it out. Okay, in the event that happens, what's your response, right? In the event that you respond like that, how does someone respond to that response? So like building it out 5 steps in advance and really walking through like what will happen if this happens helps you kind of figure out the risk calculus. And then I would balance that versus like the impact. Like the meme is never worth it. I'm going to sound old, but I started playing pickleball recently and they said, no ball is worth the fall. So it's like when in doubt, just don't do it. And make sure that you align on what is valuable or not before the asset's created, because there's nothing more frustrating as a social media manager to spend a bunch of effort making a video or a meme or something, and then you find out afterwards that it is not allowed. And I say this as a guilty party here who has vetoed things because of a 5% chance that they'll be considered offensive to a certain group or not align with the brand values. Like the great example would be like the Will Smith slap. Like that was actually kind of a sad moment for me and like pop culture, and we decided not to participate.
Yeah, I can totally see that. And I have to tell you, I think this is another case where many hands make light work. Many perspectives improve the chance that you're going to catch something that might possibly be offensive. So even if you had a meme team and that meme team was the 5 check boxes you need, hey, these are 5 people that we got to run this meme past before we make it. Get those different perspectives.
Yeah. And the top thing, that's such a good point, Teresa, because what I would add to that is that like that absence of like a deciding committee or like the racial and gender homogeneousness of that group actually leads to a lot of stuff that like reinforces harmful gender stereotypes or like glorifies bro culture or like abuses sports metaphors in like an annoying way. So I completely agree with that. And just make sure that your group has a different set of stakeholders across different parties, because it's like your talent brand is different from your brand that you use to drive pipeline, but they should all be connected by a red line. That's your values.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that involves your team and your marketing, which is always so hard as marketers to get people from different parts of the organization to be in our effort. So if you're asking for input from your team, you're also getting buy-in from the team for what you're doing. So it's great to get that input. It's great to rotate that input so you're not hitting the same people over and over again. Same thing with being on camera. We tend to put the same people on camera all the time. Let's diversify that up a little bit in more meaning of that word than just that. Let's get more voices at the table.
Yeah. And it also starts from understanding your audience. Like, you don't have one audience, you have like 10 audiences. How do you appeal to each audience uniquely? All right, we got one last question, apparently.
Okay. One last question. Let's see. Oh, we got it. Oh, yeah. This is a really, really good one.
I love this.
So basically, I'm going to recap this, and hopefully I catch the meaning of the question here because it's a good one. How do you get leadership to see the value of employees participating in social media?
Yeah, this is so tough, and it's something I'm still struggling with. We, primarily driven by Med Yuli on the Apollo team, are attacking this from a bunch of different angles. One thing I'm doing is I'm trying to recruit the best AEs who have like great brands so that I get secret social media advocates, right, who also overachieve on quota. So hiring is part of that. And then when you start to hire people with big brands, that kind of snowballs where they're like, oh my gosh, they went to this company. This other person went. I want to go there too. I can pick wherever I want to go because I have 1 million LinkedIn followers. Like, I choose Apollo. So that's one way to do it. The other is leading by example. You post yourself. You get your CEO to post. You could potentially even hire someone to help manage executive engagement across it. There's a third thing you can do where you can showcase people on your social page. Maybe people are not posting because they're nervous, because they think they're not worthy, because whatever. You post something of their face with their story on the page. That gets a ton of engagement. It'll build that muscle for them. You can also processize it, add a weekly calendar reminder for people to post to social, and then in it provide proposed social copy and a topic, and then add a big disclaimer at the top of that. Don't use this copy. Write your own copy. But if that's difficult for you, we're happy to help. Host weekly enablement sessions with your team. Bring them through an onboarding cohort. But the moment happens not when you say, hey, it's your job to post now, but when people have that aha moment. With Apollo, for example, we know when someone pulls data from our prospect database and then sends a sequence with that, and then the meeting's booked, they're like, wow, it's so much easier to have all my tools in one place. From that aha moment, the retention for our product is super, super high. So how do you create an aha moment in terms of people realizing the value of organic evangelism? You kind of have to lead them to the water. And then once they're there, you have to just like be like, hey, can I get you any glasses? What kind of drink do you want? You want some ice? Like, let me make you a pina colada, like whatever.
Right. I love that. I love that. And it does perfectly summarize. It was a great question. Perfectly summarizes what we're talking about here, which is be human, be all about efficiency, be all about, bringing your team and your people in. Okay, we are actually minutes over our time together, and I want to make sure that I tried as hard as I can to stick to the high bar that Daryl has set for us for these 15 fives. So Daniel, thank you for bringing all your wisdom and sharing it with our group. Thank you to everyone that joined us and for all the great questions. We really appreciate it. We do have a Slack channel. I think Daniel, Nathaniel, that's in the slides at the end if we want to show it. If anybody wants to join us on our Slack channel, we actually have a Slack channel that will actually appear right in your, this is our private Slack channel. Cool. It'll actually show right inside of your current workspace. So you don't have to go out to see a Slack channel.
That's
right
awesome.
inside your workspace. So join us.
The delay
over there.
is on me, by the way. I'm the delayer.
Okay. All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Oh, yes. So thank you. Thank you for being here, Daniel. I appreciate it.
Bye.